So this is Sam Harris's Substack. This is an article that he wrote back in early July. It was closely after the Biden-Trump debate. So it's called A Portrait of Delusion. And so in this, I want to point out before we start going through this that oftentimes people accuse him of being unfair toward Trump. People that often support Trump accuse Harris of having Trump derangement syndrome. What I want to bring attention here is that he's been very critical of Joe Biden at specific points. I'm going to argue that Sam Harris is often pretty fair politically. Okay, so right here he's talking about, for example, just how even though he had more fluidity in this interview than he did in the debate, he argues the man simply does not understand what has happened to his career, either because he's been shielded from this knowledge by his staffs, arguing the people around Biden that are serving in his administration, they're hyping him up and not really letting him know how he is being viewed throughout the U.S. Okay, or because he lacks the psychological capacity to absorb it, so he's not capable of understanding how he was being viewed. And now that Biden's out of the race, we can look back, and I think more people are acknowledging how bad that debate was, where for a minute, including people like Bernie Sanders and AOC, they were really defending Biden and saying that he was the person, and they were criticizing those who were saying he should drop out. Okay, so these are just some of his responses that Sam Harris is highlighting. So look, the way I prepared, nobody's fault. Mine, nobody's fault but mine. It goes on to just highlight how Trump had lied a lot, which was true, but also a bit of a deflection with how he performed. Okay, so Sam spells out that it wasn't just the word salad, it wasn't just maybe Biden's stumbling with his words. He highlighted that really it's the worst part of the interview was the substance of what he was saying, how he basically was just saying how he'd been counted out a lot, that he's no quitter, and then this part was the worst. This was something that I want to say Jon Stewart was making a lot of fun of it. But he said right here, and even if he loses to Trump in November, and on his account hands our democracy to a man intent upon destroying it, the most important thing will be that he gave it his all and did the goodest job he could. The man who smiled at George Stephanopoulos last night as though he didn't have a care in the world is the contented prisoner of a childish self-mythology. Unfortunately, our country is now imprisoned along with him. Now, Sam's painting a pretty dire picture, which now that Biden's out of the race, a lot of people aren't going to remember that interview and remember that he said basically as long as he does his goodest job, as long as he does his best, that it's okay. When the stakes are so high, that's obviously not okay. I want to spell out at the end here, Sam basically predicted that Biden would drop out. Keep in mind this is July 6th. I want to say Biden's dropout date was July, it was toward the end of the month, July 21st. Yeah, that was the actual day that Biden dropped out. It was July 21st. So Sam predicted this more than 2 weeks before. So he basically highlights here, talks about how Trump can walk into dressing rooms where you have teenagers changing and brag about it, how he can create a fake university, and how Republicans still stand by him no matter what. He can engage in a violent insurrection and get his mob to threaten his own vice president, but Republicans will stand by him no matter what. And then he goes on to argue, in embracing a candidate whose personal avarice and dishonesty had no equal, not only in our politics but in public life, the Republican Party had become an abject cult of personality. To a lot of objective people, that's true. It's not even a question, and historians are going to confirm this later on. Notice when historians are ranking top presidents, they're never putting Trump at the top. This might sound rude, this might sound elitist, but the people who would accuse it of being elitist, some of them just lack the understanding here of why the fake elector scheme was so bad. But the people that defend Trump the most, usually these are not the most informed individuals. They don't understand why it was so bad when Trump made that call to election officials in Georgia, for example. Okay, but right here, so this is where Sam predicts. It says, but the Democrats, for all their flaws, remain a normal political party, and so I will be amazed if the Biden campaign lasts beyond the middle of next week. Now, they did last a little bit longer, but overall, Sam was right. Biden was done by July 21st when he wrote this on July 6th. So 15 days after Sam wrote this, Biden was out.